To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I'm your host, Meatloaf, and I can assure you that I won't be doing that. Whatever that is. Never quite did figure that out. All right, we have just a boatload of topics to cover today. I've got about 7 different things that have popped up, so we're going to work our way through them, but I thought we would start off with the sad news that dropped just recently. Actor Charles Grodden passed away today at the age of 86. Now, he was in a lot of great movies, Midnight Run, So I Married an Axe Murderer, The Heartbreak Kid, he was in Clifford, but my favorite role for him was in the movie Dave with Kevin Kline, where Dave is trying to rewrite the budget so that he can put in a jobs program. And they tell him, that, well, you don't understand this, blah, blah, blah. And he calls up this accountant buddy of his from back home, Murray Blum, and that is Charles Grodden. And just the way he looks at the national budget is pretty hilarious in the movie. And it's a great movie overall. If you haven't seen it, it's Ving Rhames, Frank Langella, Sigourney Weaver, Kevin Kline, of course, Charles Grodden, Ben Kingsley. It is a wonderful movie, and back at a time where politics weren't quite so polarizing. So do yourself a favor, check out a Charles Grodden movie tonight if you get a chance. I recommend Dave, but like I said, there's a lot of good ones, and rest in peace, Mr. Grodden. All right, we're going to go on to... let's start with, like I said, I got a lot of topics here. Well, the one that keeps popping up over and over again is Knives Out 2. Every time I turn around, they've added another great name to the cast. And we've already got Catherine Hahn, Janelle Monáe, Dave Bautista, Ed Norton, joining Daniel Craig, and Ryan Johnson's back to script and direct it. Well, now they've added Leslie Odom Jr., and I think that's a fascinating one. Leslie, of course, got really big because of the Hamilton musical, but also he was in Murder on the Orient Express. So he's already done one of these big budget movies, the big budget murder mysteries. So he's joining the cast. That's another great actor in there. I have a feeling they're not done yet. They're probably rolling these out tiny little bits, just to build up the momentum. Great idea if they do. Let's see. We got our first comment. Love Dave. Excellent film. Loved Grodden and Seems Like Old Times and Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn. That's right. Another great movie. Seems Like Old Times with Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn. So again, if you get a chance to check out a Charles Grodden movie tonight, do it. You'll thank it. You'll thank me later. So Knives Out 2 is growing quickly. Can't wait to see who else they're going to add to the cast. Also, there's been a lot of trailers dropped this week. The one that got my attention, well, 2 of them got my attention. I'm going to go in backwards order, though. The Lost Symbol, which is a new series for Peacock. Yeah, a new series on the Peacock streaming network. And it's going to star Ashley Zuckerman as a younger version of Robert Langdon. Now, if you're not familiar with any of those names, Robert Langdon is the lead character in The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, Inferno, and the other books by Dan Brown that were then adapted by Ron Howard with Tom Hanks in the lead role. I've read all the books, big fan of that series, hoping to see more in that series. There's only 5 books so far. The Lost Symbol got skipped. So, well, first thing, the first 2 movies came out in reverse order. Da Vinci Code got so popular that it became the first movie. Angels and Demons was the first book, but they flipped them in the movies. They skipped The Lost Symbol, and it's probably, of the 5 books, it's probably the lesser of the 5. So it's not surprising they skipped it. But they're going to use that for the TV series. They've done Inferno, and then there's still Origin out there. But what they're doing with the TV series is they're making this they're doing the same thing they did with Jack Ryan, where they're not saying that movies don't exist, that those are all great, and we're just going to take it from a younger days when he's first getting into it with John Krasinski. And I think that was a brilliant idea, because if not, then he's got to live up to the roles of Harrison Ford and Alec Baldwin and Chris Pine and Ben, all these people. But there's been 4 different people who've played it, and some have been better than others. So Krasinski picking up a famous role, but not necessarily having to live up to the other. If it was just Harrison Ford or the Alec Baldwin and then Harrison Ford roles, then it'd be like, I don't know. But the fact that he was coming off of 4 different actors and the last 2 movies weren't as good as the others, it made it a little easier for Krasinski. This is a little different for Zuckerman, who's going to be stepping in to a role that Tom Hanks played 3 times and did well 3 times. So it's going to be interesting to see their approach to it. And the fact that they're making this a younger Robert Langdon, so all of this is supposed to take place before Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons, which will change the story up. And I don't know how much that will influence or affect fans of the books, because we know them in a certain way, and flipping the order because of convenience, that makes it interesting. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. And I'm also here in LA, so yeah, welcome back. So I'm looking forward to checking out the Robert Langdon series. The problem is I don't know if it's enough to actually get me to buy Peacock or to stream Peacock. I may have to see if there's a trial run on it, because I haven't checked out Peacock yet. I've got HBO Max, and I've got Disney Plus, and I've got Hulu, and I've got Amazon Prime, but haven't dove in on the Peacock yet. Oh, Mark is suggesting we do a Zack Snyder ruining movies. I will take that under consideration. I've got a topic for tomorrow already, but I'll keep that in mind. Zack, I don't know if I would come in at it from the negative. I may Zack Snyder's effect on movies, because I don't necessarily think it's all bad. I think there's some good and some bad in both. So let me consider that as a topic. We're good for today, though, because I got quite a bit here. But finishing up on The Lost Symbol, Ron Howard and Brian Glazer are back producing it, so you're going to keep that part of it. Also, you've got Eddie Izzard in the cast, and from Arrow, Rick Gonzalez, the guy that played Wild Dog. So it should be interesting at least to take a look at, but I am curious how it's going to handle and what the reaction is going to be. But The Lost Symbol coming to Peacock, I didn't see a date on it yet, so I think they're just starting to get the temperature of the audience and with that little teaser trailer. Speaking of teaser trailers, we're going to move on to me, the big trailer of the week. And I didn't know it was coming. I did not know that there was a new that I had heard that one of the networks, Paramount, is it Paramount Plus? Just another one I don't have. One of the networks is working on a potential G.I. Joe related TV series story focusing on Lady J. So I knew that was in the works. What I didn't know was that there was a new Snake Eyes movie coming out, which, since I do follow this stuff, I thought I would have heard of. But that those images dropped over the weekend, and that was pretty amazing. And then Monday morning, it's like, oh, hey, look, there's a Snake Eyes trailer that dropped last night. But I guess they dropped it as part. It's not really. Hello, Jenny. Thank you for joining us. It wasn't that they were dropping the trailer. I think they would put it as part of that MTV Awards show, just like Marvel dropped a Loki scene and a Black Widow scene, neither of which were all that groundbreaking, but they dropped it during the show. Well, Paramount dropped the Snake Eyes, I want to call it a teaser trailer, because it's only about a minute long. Yes, Snake Eyes is a ninja, so they do tend to sneak up on you. Well played. But that dropped, and I thought it was a really good trailer. It goes right into the action. We're taking Snake Eyes before he loses his voice, which is smart because when your lead in the role can't speak, it makes it a little more difficult. So taking him at whatever causes his loss of his vocal ability is a good idea. It takes us back to when he's training with Hard Master and Blind Master, early days with Storm Shadow. But we're also going to get Scarlet, played by Samara Weaving, and the Baroness, played by, I've got her name right here, Ursula Corbero. Also, Henry Golding is Snake Eyes, who was great in Crazy Rich Asians and stuff like that, but really stood out in The Gentleman. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in that role. Andrew Koji is Storm Shadow. It's being directed by Robert Schwentke, who I knew I'd heard that name before, so I went back and just double-checked, and he's done a lot of interesting movies. He's done 2 of the Divergent series, both Insurgent and Allegiant. He did the movie Flight Plan with Jodie Foster, The Time Traveler's Wife, R.I.P.D. with Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds, which, okay, it wasn't a great movie, but I don't think it had anything to do with the direction. It's not a great script, but and he did the movie Red with Bruce Willis and John Malkovich, and that was fantastic. So I think that's a good sign. And then they also released a behind the scenes thing where they chatted with Larry Hama. I mean, they also chatted with the directors and producers and actors and stuff. But freaking Larry Hama, who looked fantastic in his suit, just sitting back, enjoying life. And they're talking about how good Silent Interlude is. And I believe that was G.I. Joe number 21. I know it was in the 20s. It might have been 24, but I believe it was 21. Probably the best single issue of G.I. Joe out there. And the entire thing is no dialogue, and it's a real good series it was a real good episode issue that showcased Snake Eyes, who, come on, let's face it, Snake Eyes is the best G.I. Joe character. I mean, you can argue, but you'd be wrong. But yeah, Snake Eyes was always my favorite. For a while there, he came with the dog. I think his name was Timber. Yeah, I collected the Joes when I was a kid. I read all the comics, and then I kind of glanced at, but didn't really watch the 2 movies that came out with Dwayne Johnson or Channing Tatum. They were okay. I remember having one on the background, and Christopher Eccleston as Destro, which I thought was interesting. Ray Park as Snake Eyes. But here we get Henry Golding as Snake Eyes. And the footage looks really good. The fighting looks really good. Jenny likes the Divergent movies. The director's got a good pedigree. So I got a good feeling about this, and I'm looking forward to it. Also, I love the idea that instead of just doing another G.I. Joe series, they're actually focusing on one of the characters, which is the Marvel method. They did Iron Man, then they did Thor, then they did Cap, and then another Iron Man before they did the Avengers. So I'm not sure what other Joes they could focus on to build it up, but I'm sure there's a couple others that would be good standalone movies. You put a big enough name in it or something like that, a good action star. Maybe you bring Jason Statham in there as Hawk or Duke or something like that, if you can get him to do an American accent. But Sergeant Slaughter. Yep, Sergeant Slaughter. There we go. Sergeant Slaughter will be the next movie there. Yeah, I think JD called it right. I like that. I was always amazed when Sergeant Slaughter, and then the other one that they did was William the Refrigerator Perry became a Joe. And I thought, wow, we've really, really gone to bottom here. But Doc would be a good one. I love the figure of Doc. He had that weird beige helmet. Yeah. So that's coming out, and it's coming out soon. July 23rd, I think it was. That's like in no time. I mean, we're getting trailers for Shang-Chi, which is September. And we're getting Venom in September. And Paramount comes out and goes, oh, by the way, we got a movie in July. Thanks. Got to go. July? That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. These are the movies that are going to get me back into the theater. Black Widow, Snake Eyes, Shang-Chi, probably Venom. Right now, those are the ones that I'm really, going to go and be in the theater. I'm vaxxed. I've got my both shots. I'm ready to go, but still hesitant. But then I don't like people. So, getting in a crowd of people is always going to be kind of weird for me. But, all right. So, G.I. Joe's coming with Snake Eyes leading the way. Can't wait to see what they do after that and how they follow it up. That's the other thing, is that when you start something like this, Marvel was smart that they had, yes, we're coming out with Iron Man 2 or Iron Man, and then boom, Hulk. You're building it there. You're getting everybody's attention. I look at something like Sony did with Bloodshot, Vin Diesel movie. It came out right as the pandemic started, so the numbers are kind of wishy-washy, but they don't have another movie ready to build up off of the goodwill that the film did get. They could have popped it back in the theater, gotten some more people in, and then, it's a Vin Diesel movie. It's Guy Pearce. It gets some more people in the theater who didn't get a chance to see it or saw it on the little screen and now want to see it on the big screen. But they should have had a Ninjak movie ready or an Exo-Man of War and been ready to build this universe, because shared universes are really where the money is right now. And everybody's trying to get one. That's what Paramount's doing with G.I. Joe. That's what they're trying to do with Mortal Kombat. They're trying to build these shared universes. And, Star Trek's been trying to do it. I've never understood why James Bond hasn't done that. 007, there's other 00 agents we could follow. They could be different style of agents. There's a lot they could do and do different types of missions. You could bring in other big names and have, every other year or every year you could have a different 00. They could really expand that franchise but they haven't. So, and shared universes really is kind of where it's at right now. So I'm surprised that Sony didn't do it with I'm pointing in front of me because I've got Mr. Diesel here as Bloodshot. It's a good figure. The knife's a little obscenely big, but otherwise it's a good figure. All right, let's move on to what's another topic we've got. Hell, this is interesting. If you are a fan of audiobooks and listening to stories like old radio programs, I have a Sirius satellite and I listen to the old radio programs constantly. So for me, moving into audiobooks was real easy. But Marvel just announced today a new thing called Marvel Wastelanders, which sounds like it's going to be a new series of these podcast dramas. And it's Old Man Star-Lord, written by Benjamin Percy. It's an apocalyptic alternate future of the MCU. And it's going to debut on June 1st, so very soon, on Sirius XM, on their apps and their desktop features. So if you get Sirius XM, then you can listen to this. And the cast is fascinating. They've got Timothy Busfield as Star-Lord. I don't think I've seen Timothy Busfield in anything since West Wing. And before that, 30-something. The guy, hasn't been doing a lot. Chris Elliott as Rocket Raccoon. Patrick Page as Kraven the Hunter, so we know we're going to get Kraven the Hunter in this. Dylan Baker as Doom. Vanessa Williams as Emma Frost. And then you also got Danny Glover and Asif Manvi in it. This sounds like an interesting project, and it's going to be airing on, like I said, Sirius XM. And it's, you get to hear a sample of it on YouTube, and they released a clip of it. And Busfield can pull off Star-Lord. I think he can. He's got that Chris Pratt. Well, what's a good way to put this? I want to say annoyance in his voice. Pratt fits Star-Lord pretty well. So I'm kind of curious about this. Probably give it a shot. I do have Sirius, so I should be able to listen to it. And I'll let you guys know. If you don't have Sirius, I'll let you know if it's any good. And if you do have Sirius, then you guys ought to listen to it and tell me what you think. So, yeah. So that was just announced today, which is really cool. Let's see what else we got. The Marvel, I mentioned earlier, Marvel's dropping scenes for Black Widow and for Loki. The Black Widow one is interesting because it's just a scene with, what is it? Oh, the Marvel Wastelanders. It's kind of an audio drama. It's going to be an acted out, but basically a comic book acted out without pictures. Actually, I don't think there's any pictures. Yeah, I think it's just they're referring to it like a podcast. So it's basically, I think they did one with Wolverine not that long ago too. So they're trying to do these podcasts, and this is one that has Old Man Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon as like the surviving members of the Guardians of the Galaxy in an apocalyptic future. Yeah, that sounds fun when you put it that way, huh? Everybody's dead but Rocket and Quill. And he's got to go up against Doom and Kraven the Hunter and Emma Frost. Yeah. If you move into the movie man voice, then it sounds really cool. Star-Lord returns. Yeah. Okay, so what was I moving on? Oh, yeah. So the Black Widow trailer, it's just a scene. They dropped it in the middle of the MTV Movie Awards. And it's them driving away from what looks to be another Black Widow. That's kind of confusing. There's a lot of Black Widows in this. Yep, Doom, Frost, Kraven all together is a strange alliance. I agree with you on that. Um, though Frost could be iffy. It could be just the people he meets in the post-apocalyptic world and has to deal with. Because it's supposed to be a series, so a series of episodes. So maybe, they're not working together. It's just he's on a quest or something. I don't know. We should get Benjamin Percy on and get him to tell us about it. That would be fun. Let's see if we can make that happen. So the Black Widow movie has a bunch of Black Widows in it. Yelena Belova is a Black Widow. Of course, Natasha. Then you've got the older actresses, Rachel Weisz's character was a Black Widow. I think she's actually the Iron Maiden now. And then you've got all these other ones that are being trained, and they're sent after them. And it looks like they're escaping from them. And as they're going away, they're being shot at. And Natasha, it's kind of weird because Natasha seems like, I don't know what to do. I'm just driving. And Yelena's suddenly, having her crank the wheel and opening her door so it hits a pole and it shoots off and wipes out the girl on the bike. It just seemed kind of odd that Natasha wouldn't know what to do at that point, because Natasha seems to be the one that knows what to do all the time in the Avengers. So why is it she gets around her adopted sister and forgets everything? Yeah, I guess that's possible, but I don't see it. Interesting scene. And then the Loki scene they added just is an extended on the elevator scene. We get Owen Wilson introducing himself as Mobius M. Mobius. And we get the scene in the elevator, and then we get a little bit more, and we find out that the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, was created by, as Loki refers to them, 3 space lizards deciding on what is the proper time. So yeah, that sounds interesting. I'm ready to follow the space lizards. We haven't been doing too great on our own, so space lizards, come help us. We're good. Yeah. Also, I just realized, speaking of Snake Eyes earlier, if you haven't been getting the Batman Fortnite comic, which is insanely selling, just crazy. They underestimated how many are supposed to be in it, or how many people are going to be interested in it. Snake Eyes pops up now. Snake Eyes invades Batman Fortnite. It's weird because that's not even a DC character. So, but the G.I. Joe says here, worlds collide as G.I. Joe's unstoppable ninja clashes with the Dark Knight in Batman Fortnite 0.3. Read the issue and receive a redeemable code for Catwoman's grappling claw pickaxe. I don't play Fortnite. I don't get it. Maybe I'm old. Probably more likely I've never actually sat down to play it. But I get that it's a huge phenomenon. And normally when corporations start figuring that out is a sign that it's over. But I don't think that's the case yet. I mean, these comics are selling like crazy. People are coming in who don't buy comics normally, and they're coming in looking for this comic. So keep an eye out for issues 1 and 2 are going at high cost. Issue 3, you get Snake Eyes in it. So if you're a Snake Eyes fan and you want to see Snake Eyes and Batman together, looking like they're actually fighting, check it out. All right, we are halfway through the show. Let me give JD a heads up that we're going to roll into commercial. So let's do that. Take it away, JD, whenever you'd like, to a commercial, and we'll come back and talk about the Warner Media merger.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Well, that was a interesting set of commercials. I didn't, up until recently, I didn't get to watch the commercials. My screen would just go black and I'd have to leave the channel and then come back because of something in my browser settings. We haven't got that work. I'm actually using a different browser now, but so I'm getting to see the commercials, and I really like the comic book shop locator commercials. They're really good. The To Be Continued one particularly I thought was really good. So yeah, I like those. Kind of cool to get to see those now. All right, so we're going to talk about the big issue of the week. And Mark's suggested topic sort of comes up in this. We're talking about AT&T deciding AT&T is made some mistakes. They purchased Warner Media and they purchased DirecTV, and they thought they would, do these huge things with them. And that was about 5 years ago. And they sold DirecTV at a loss recently, and now they've just sold Warner Media at a loss. I believe they purchased it around 80 billion or whatever it is, and they're selling it for 43. So they're losing big money, and they were only able to make about 19 back on DirecTV. So AT&T is kind of admitting defeat and walking away. JD, pull that up on the screen, please. I have seen the movie Videodrome last night with my boyfriend Brad. It was so weird, and the only reason I watched it was because Brad promised to give me a massage. That's a good reason to watch Video. That is a weird movie. I haven't seen that in many, many years. Wow. Okay, yeah. But hey, good on you for getting the massage. I hope he did a good job and not like just a little I'm done. That he actually spent some time and made it worth your while. So, all right. So Warner Media came up for sale, and it was a quick deal. Discovery jumped on it. And if you would have asked me last week, who do I think would be up for buying Warner Media? I don't think the name Discovery would have come to mind. NBC Universal, CBS, yeah, I wouldn't have thought of Discovery, but Discovery has recently launched their own streaming service, Discovery Plus, and they're already got like 1.5 million viewers or subscribers. And they're doing reality shows. And they're doing, it's Guy Fieri, it's the Property Brothers. It's pretty amazing that they know their niche market. My mother keeps asking me to figure out how to get her that, but she's not really good. We need to get her a smart TV, because having like a Roku or something would probably be a little bit outside of what she's good with. So Going to probably get her a smart TV and set that up. But she wants that because there's all those shows on there she watches, the home flipping shows and the cooking shows. So Discovery's got its market and it's making some good money. But they pick up Warner Media and they didn't envelop it. It didn't become part of Discovery. They're actually going to merge Discovery and Warner Media together. But the head of Discovery is most likely going to stay the big boss because his name is David Zaslav, and he was under contract through 2023, and they just extended him through 2027. So they've got a good vote of confidence in that. Now, the problem is that, and the reason I think AT&T were bailing on it, is HBO Max is not getting the numbers that stuff like Disney Plus is, that these other companies are. So they're kind of scrambling, and they went, we're losing money, we're out. And when your main focus is technology and cell phone service and all these different things, bailing us, you can do that if it's not your big thing. And that's what they did. But what does that mean for Warner Media? Now, in my opinion, Warner Media has been an absolute madhouse. They don't know what they've been doing. They have been flipping back and forth. They greenlit another, was it 80 million to finish with it? It was in the millions. It was either 20 or 80 million to finish the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. And don't get me wrong, I was glad they did. I think the Snyder cut was a much better movie than what was in theaters. But for the last 5 years, since AT&T has bought them, they have been all over the place on what they're doing. There doesn't seem to be a consistent message. And you can look at the fact that, Jenny agrees. The Snyder Cut was awesome. Now, there's also an all black and white version up there. And I'm not sitting through another version, 4-hour movie just to see it in black and white. I'm good with the color version. We can leave it at that. But I thought it was a much better version. But if you go back, you're looking at the decision to take Snyder off the movie. When he had to step away because of the personal issues, they decided to, replace him with Joss Whedon. Then all the stuff going on there, all the BS behind the scenes. It just seems like there wasn't a consistent voice. There wasn't a consistent vision. The number one thing that is making Marvel successful is Kevin Feige and his team. It's a consistent vision. It's a consistent voice. And you can listen to any of these interviews. Anybody who comes in, they talk about how they're brought in, they're allowed to come up with their story, and then Marvel figures out, hey, we can connect it here, here, and here. Marvel doesn't dictate, in some ways. They'll tell you, well, no, we're doing this, so you can't do that. But they don't try to tell you the story to tell, and they let the creators be the creators. And that's now kind of iffy because there's a major shakeup at the top of Disney as well. But we'll see how that pans out. It sounds like they're starting to put more Chiefs and less Indians, and I'm worried about that, but that's not the topic for today. Topic for today is Warner Brothers. And for a while there, Zack Snyder was that vision for them. And you can look and say, you might not be a fan of Snyder's vision. You may not like the darkness of it. But from Snyder's vision came the first Wonder Woman movie. And compare that to without Snyder, Wonder Woman 1984. Big difference in movies, big difference in tone, in quality. The first Wonder Woman movie is probably one of the best origin movies out there. You know, first appearance movies, setting up a character. Even though we'd already met her, it was her first solo. The second one is a train wreck. I mean, it's got the gimmick of it being in 1984 doesn't even make sense. There's no specific reason why the movie takes place in 1984, other than they just wanted to do it in 1984. There was no reason to make it part of the title of the movie, but they did. And it's those kind of things that they do. They've got the Shazam movie going on, and they have someone walking in Henry Cavill's costume, but it's not Henry Cavill, and we don't see his face. You have a beloved actor like Cavill still wanting to be Superman, and they can't seem to figure out what they're doing with it. And now they've got another Superman project in the works where they're going to probably do Val-El, I believe his name is. They've got another Batman series in the works, but they're also going to bring Ben Affleck back for the Flash movie, and they're going to bring in Michael Keaton. I get that comic readers can deal with all that stuff because we're used to it. We grew up with it. This Batman, that Batman, there's 7 Green Lanterns. We get all that. Is the general audience who whole experience is these movies, their whole experience with these characters, does that work? And I think that's, again, why Marvel is doing well, because everything makes sense. Star Wars, most of the time, everything makes sense. You get to DC, and it's like, well, wait a minute, does this movie connect with that movie? Does that have anything to do with this other movie over here? You know, Shazam's in the same universe as Batman and Superman, but, and that was fun. But then so's Aquaman, and then they've been rudderless for a while, and I think it's been under the AT&T banner that it's been happening. It's been about 5 years of absolute craziness with second guessing, changing of regimes. The people who decided to do the Snyder Cut weren't even there at the company anymore when it came out. And it got a good enough response. There are people out there now who want to see the other movies, and they could do that in animated series. They could do that as comics. They could get that out there at a lower budget if they wanted to, or they could go back and make the movie. But they're just kind of like, instead they put out a trailer hyping the Joss Whedon version of the film, which wasn't well received. So in the long run, I think, well, it couldn't get worse. Horrible words to say. I think Discovery at least has a better idea of how to do entertainment. And hopefully that'll be their focus. And that, most of the time when you talk about Discovery, or people talk about Discovery, they talk about how they've been given the opportunity to make the shows they want to make. And, if they have an idea, somebody has an idea for a show or an episode, bring it. They want that. So hopefully that attitude gets brought into Warner Media, and some of these properties that have been, and I focus on the DC slate because you have some of the most popular characters in the world, and they're being handled poorly. Marvel built themselves up on Iron Man and Thor and Hulk and Captain America. These were not A-listers when they started. DC can't get things going with Batman and Superman. That blows my mind. And I'm hoping that this change of ownership, that the merging between, we don't know what the name of the company is going to be yet. They're still holding that out. I think it would be ridiculous for them not to use Warner Brothers' name, Warner Media. Warner Discovery would be a great title. Then you get both Warner Brothers Discovery or Warner Discovery. But they've got these characters now. They can discover Warner. Have you been drinking, JD? It's okay. You can admit it. So I think that in the long run it's going to be better because you're freeing these properties and you're freeing up the creative people behind them. You're taking the corporate-minded people out, at least AT&T. Now, I'm hoping Discovery keeps their creative first concept. It's worked well for Disney. Hopefully that's not changing. But Warner's could use that because they have a lot of great properties and they're really just dropping the ball on it. The Harry Potter franchises, you've got, again, the Superman and Batman. It's an absolute mess. There are people who love the CW shows, but then you've got these shows on the DC universe that debuted, like Doom Patrol and Teen Titans and Harley Quinn, and then suddenly DC Universe is enveloped into HBO Max, but they put out like one thing here and then it's gone, then one thing there. There's no real big series on HBO Max. Why there isn't a Harry Potter based series? Why isn't there a Batman or Superman series? Why do Superman and Lois over on the CW when you could do it on HBO Max and you're trying to get subscribers? The best that they've had were these day and date movie releases. And I've watched Perry Mason on HBO Max because I didn't feel like firing up my actual HBO. It was just as easy to go there. So they've got some good stuff. HBO has some great series, but they're not really marketing it well. And again, I think that's AT&T. That's the problem, is the AT&T. And now I'm curious because AT&T had a thing where if you subscribe to for their phone service, you got HBO Max for free. And is that going to stay? How long does that last? When does that end? There's a good question. So I am hoping that this is going to be a positive move for Warner Media, that it will allow the creatives to take back control and that maybe they'll find someone to guide the ship. If not for the whole company, someone to guide the DCEU, someone to guide the Harry Potter things, some of these bigger franchises that they have the license to, someone to guide them. We're kind of getting that with Star Wars now. A little bit. We have that with the MCU. That's what you need, is that single voice and focus. And they've been missing it for a very long time. I'd like to see them really consolidate some of these things. You have some great DC shows, but they're all over the place. You've got a bunch on Warner Brothers, or on CW. You've got a bunch over on HBO Max. You've got, Pennyworth is on, I don't even know what channel that is. Stars? Oh, yeah, HBO Max had Watchmen, or HBO had Watchmen. Thank you, Jenny. Watchmen was awesome. The Boys, Invincible, Justice are my favorite shows of all time. I hyped for 3 of Boys. HBO Watchmen was brilliant. Loved it. The Boys has been brilliant, and I haven't watched season 2 yet. I think that coming through the pandemic, I'm not looking for the dark stuff right now. It's my mindset, so I haven't watched the second season of The Boys yet, but I will. And I adapted one of the novels. Yeah, I wrote the novel adaptation of the first comic series, so I'm very familiar with the characters. But I look for that. I tried to watch Invincible, got through to the end of the first episode, and decided it wasn't for me. And again, it's just maybe right now in my life, so that dark doesn't work for me where normally I like it. But I could see they have a great cast, and I know the story of Invincible. I've read a bunch of the early trades, so it just didn't click with me. Jupiter's Legacy, I got through about 20 minutes of the first episode, and it was driving me nuts. The wigs, the makeup, I had to turn it off. Now, I'm going to give it another shot because I know a lot of people like Jenny seem to really like it. So I'm going to sit back down, get through at least 3 episodes, and give it a good shot. I know it's like 8 episodes total. So I am going to go back and try to get back into it. But so far, it wasn't working for me. But that gets us off of Warner. Watchmen was brilliant. Watchmen was great. I was looking forward to each week. My only problem with the Watchmen series is we never got a real good explanation for Lube Guy. And I know they dealt with that on their webpage, but no. You don't have a guy dressed in a full silver costume, cover himself in lube and slide into a drainage slot and not explain it to us. That's crazy. We need answers to Lube Guy. So I'm hoping we get an HBO Watchmen season 2, but it doesn't look like it. I don't think we're going to get one. But then the writer never thought of it. I mean, it was a one episode or 1 season series for him. So we'll have to see. But I'm hoping this merger, we still have to see some of the details. Who's going to be in charge? Right now, it looks like Zaslav is going to be in charge. What happens to the heads up at Warner Media now? How is that going to trickle down? Will that affect the comic industry? I know a lot of people in the comic industry that, DC is their big bread maker right now. So, money maker. So I'm hoping that it doesn't negatively affect them. And, yeah. So that was my take on it. There was a thing about, and it got confusing in the news. They said that 71% was going to be owned by AT&T and the rest by 28% or whatever by Discovery, but it's not the corporations that own it. What it is the shareholders are splitting it. 71% of AT&T shareholders will have, or 71% of the shares for this new company are going to go to AT&T shareholders, and the rest are going to go to Discovery. So it's not a matter of them owning the company, it's owning shares. So in the end, it's going to be its own new entity and not having anything to do with AT&T. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for joining me, Jenny, Mark. It's been great. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to have our first guests, Alan and Jillian Porter, and they have done this book, the James Bond Lexicon. This thing is huge, and it is A to Z, everything you want to know about James Bond. We're going to have them on. It's 300,000 words, 5,000 individual entries, 200 plus stories covered, 80 pieces of original art, 6 years of research. The James Bond Lexicon. Alan and Jillian will be here tomorrow for most of the show. We'll talk about the book, writing the book, doing the research for it. Also, what their thoughts are on the James Bond franchise, why they haven't spilled out into other movies. And also, I want to get an idea of some of the novels and what their thoughts are on the comics that Dynamite does. I'm a big fan of the Dynamite comics. They've had some great story arcs for James Bond. They're currently doing one, James Bond, Agent of Spectre, which is really good. That's Christos Gage. Benjamin Percy's written some. Warren Ellis did 2 arcs on it. So if you're a James Bond fan, tune in tomorrow. If you have any questions for them, I'll be happy to ask them. So please join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And I will be back in just a couple hours, 2 hours. I get to take a quick break for In Stores this week, where I will join Kyle Northrup, and we will go through some of the book's hidden shops this week. So if you want some idea of what to pick up when you go to the store, besides Batman Fortnite, because if it's there, grab it. It's an investment, I think. But join us at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, as we go through the comics shipping this week. All right. And we're down to 1 minute. Thank you, JD, for doing the tech stuff. Every time somebody pops up the words on the screen, the message on the screen, that's JD. He also runs the board. He puts the commercials up. He's a good guy. So everybody be good to JD. And again, come back tomorrow. Thank you for joining us this evening. Have a great evening. Come back for In Stores tonight. And I will see you all then. Thank you.